Good afternoon. This is Tony Dottino. I am the founder and chairman of the USA Memory Championship and doing a live with Tony much earlier than my normal schedule. So hopefully when my live with Tony audience views this, they'll look at it and see that I just filmed it a little bit earlier than normal. I usually try to do one in the 5 o'clock hour. But I've got some things I'm doing from 4 to 6, maybe till 7 tonight, and I didn't want to not get one done. So to that degree, I'm here early. And what do I want to talk about today is something that I continue to see as an increasing concern for people from a variety of reasons, be it their concern about their work and continued anxiety that people are feeling over COVID and will it come again? So now I'm in Florida, right? So we've gone through a tough summer and our rates were high, and I still see even now, summer's over, we're into the fall, I still see at some of the testing sites as I drive about our neighborhood with lines of people that are going out the door still being tested. Yesterday's newspaper, the Sunday paper, basically said we were at our lowest level ever, and that we're also doing well in terms of people in hospitals and people that are being admitted, and bad news of people who are dying, that we still have people dying, which is what I ultimately worry and concern about, and people having their boosters. So COVID continues to be an issue. I've talked to people in the north area of the country, the Midwest, the northeast, and it seems like COVID is popping up in those areas. And so it's like this ghost that arises from the darkness and creates this attack from the unknown, from the unseen, and it continues to create anxiety levels in people. And I'll start with stress. So it'll start with elements of stress, and so I'm talking to so many people that are in this constant state of fight or flight, which we know in our body's response to an attack or this unknown ghost that we feel. We talk about that as the brain craves completeness. Brain craves completeness when having unknown information that it wants and that it needs for its own survival. And so this attack of the ghost of COVID continues to create a level of stress with people, and the longer this period of stress continues in our body's response to the chemistry of how we go fight or flight and how we force cortisol into the body for the fight or the flight, the more that cortisol comes into our body, the worse our brain and our memories and our creativity and our whole physiology begins to change and react to that. And so the challenge that we all have, and trust me, I have stress in my life. There's nothing that's so wonderful and terrific in my life that, it's paradise and heaven every day of the week. So there are elements of stress that hit me as well. But what I've learned to do over the period of years in the research and studies that I've done and the readings I've had with some of the top gurus in the world is, first of all, be aware that you're in that state where your body is either, in my case, I feel it here, so I have TMJ, and boy, when I'm at night and I got these trays that I put in my mouth, and I feel those trays going at night. I know I'm visibly stressed, but I'm also consciously aware of it. And so I get to the point where I say, okay, when I'm in that mode, what do I do about it? So I've recorded TV programs that are what I call thoughtless, goofy, I'm just not they're going to help take me away into different thought patterns, and they're going to give me maybe a 30-minute break. So I like to watch Family Feud. So I've got Family Feuds that are recorded, and I'll watch a Family Feud episode, and I'll play along with Steve Harvey and what he's asking his teams in terms of their responses, and I get a 30-minute reprieve of mental stress by just changing my shift of focus, changing what's going on in my head, And I may do that sometimes at 3 o'clock in the morning. I may do that before I go to bed. In fact, that's one of my staples before I go to bed is 30 minutes of Family Feud. Because it just takes me and it has me see people who are having fun, those people that are enjoying whatever they're doing and playing along, especially with the final when they can win the $20,000. So it gives me a 30-minute break before bedtime to just say, you know what, as best as I can, go to bed thinking of Family Feud and not maybe a football game of a team. Like next Monday night, the Giants are playing the Bucks. Do I want to watch that before I go to bed? I will probably watch a half, tape the rest, watch it in the morning if the Giants win, if the Giants lose. I'm focused on what not to do in terms of stress. Now, COVID's one. It's, the information that comes out is stressful in itself because you get so many different reports that a normal response from people and hearing those different reports can drive you crazy. So, for example, this morning, I was hearing a report prior to going out and doing my morning run. I heard a report that the CDC has not captured the data on the number of people that have had COVID and have built an immune response. Now, we know there's testing for us to say, what are the changes in chemistry in our body and the cells that fight this off? And people who have gotten COVID supposedly have got this immunity that they fight off. And yet I hear that the CDC doesn't have any tracking of what that is and people who are being tested for those antibodies. That was a stress because I was like, gee, how stupid can we be in having people who have gone through this terrible disease and then not be able to fight that off and know how many people are in that boat where we can start to say, well, gee, if these people have true immunity that's tested by a doctor's lab or office or so, shouldn't we know that? And then, I add to that, our president's going to have a conference with China, and this is one of the things he's going to talk about. And so I'm like, whatever. So there are some elements in my morning that cause me stress. Now, I'm not going to watch Steve Harvey at, 7 o'clock this morning. But what I do is I have a stretching routine that I go through. So I got my program out, I put it on table, and I start flipping through and doing different stretching exercises that I have, and then it helps me at that point to say, now I have the energy to go out and run. So I have Run Keeper on my iPhone. I go outside, I get my jacket on after I came back. This was not on when I ran this morning. This is my jacket for the cool weather we're having this morning. But I had a shirt that I put on over my t-shirt, and out I went for my run. And I find that running helps eliminate some of the stress that we have. So what I encourage people to do is everybody should find some activity or some things that they do that they enjoy that breaks them away from that stress of that moment and the stress cycle. The important thing here is the stress cycle, so that people will not continue to stay in that fight or flight mode, because we know that that's going to add to a continuation, and that leads us to now building anxiety. So I'm talking to someone over the weekend about they're feeling more and more anxious. They're feeling more and more anxiety. And so the question started to become, okay, what's provoking? So what's your thinking that's provoking that continued battle you have with anxiety that immediately flares up, and you now start to feel your body tremble and shake a bit, and your mind just goes off, and you don't focus on the things that you should be doing, whether it be your work or your family or chores that you've got to do or something that needs to be accomplished. Instead, it takes your whole focus away, and you find yourself as in some state of being disabled from doing what you need to be doing. And as we recognize those things, now it's time again so let's think of some things that are positive in our life. There are some things that are wonderful, the people that you may have in your life. Maybe it's time to pick up the phone and talk to somebody who's got an upbeat, positive attitude. And, you recognize the patterns, and you begin to say, okay, I'm going to take control back. I'm going to take control back over this temporary blip that I've got, that's got these blanks in it, and I'm going to make some decisions in my day that are going to change the synergy of my thinking patterns. And that's how we begin to move ourselves back into, we are taking control over what we will watch, what we will listen to, what we might read. We will begin to build trust within our own brains, synergy to say, this is something I know I can control, that I can do, that causes me to think differently. And one of the things I read this weekend that I thought was fabulous is go build something. And I don't mean build a room in a house, but go build a clay model, go build maybe a toy set of Legos. Go build something. And building it means it's going to require you to have total focus over your hands, over your thinking, and then you'll have something that you've accomplished. So it may be a clay figure or a piece of pottery of some sort. It may be go buy a box of Legos and use some Legos and build some of that. Maybe there's something in your garage or somewhere in your house where you want to build a shadow box and put some ornaments and things in there. Change what you look at on your walls. Maybe you go buy a couple of small pictures that have some greenery. We know that nature is a revitalizing sense. So when I go out and run, I specifically run around several ponds, and I look at the birds and the ducks and sometimes the gators that are in the pond. Anything that will distract you from that synergy. And then when I come back, I'm tired a bit, I'm a little bit worn out from the run, but then I jump into the shower and put on a set of clothes. As you see, I put on one of my brighter jackets that I like to wear, and off goes my day now, so I can focus now on the things that need to be focused on. I hope this helps at least one person. If I get one person to listen to this that says, man, I feel this anxiety, I understand, my variations may be in my relationship, it may be with my kids in school, it may be with things that I've got to get done with my work, it may be places I need to go when I want to feel safe. And so if any of those can get you, and you can then just refocus your thinking onto how might I be able to do some of these things safely. So for a simple example, when I have to go to a grocery store, I either do it early in the morning or I do it late at night when the store is the least crowded. When I have to order a bunch of groceries, we get it through a Walmart, pick it up at the curb, and I just get it dropped into my trunk. So all of these give us options and alternatives as to things we might be able to accomplish and do. That gives us the feeling of our own control, that helps minimize the levels of stress, and most importantly, it short circuits them so we don't let these elements of stress grow into anxiety and then lead us into depression. That's my Monday broadcast. We'll be back on Wednesday. Have a good week. We're off and going.